welcome along to Tournament Centre. We're talking pretty quietly because there's a feature match going on right next door, but it is a great pleasure, indeed an honour, to have beside me Mr. John Avon, one of the best known, the best loved magic artists. John, great to have you here in San Juan. We're going to talk about something very specific in this show, and these are the Zendikar full art lands. Now, we're going to kick off with the island. We've got this huge version here on the table. Tell us how this came about.
Well, first of all, we're sent a style guide, and the style guide gives the influence of the way we actually draw the things. So the main thing here is that there are floating islands of rock, and I always have to somehow find a way to make each piece that I do slightly different. So you'll notice with this piece that I've actually tilted the whole horizon to one side.
Oh, okay. So effectively, it's almost like we're doing that to give you the proper perspective, if you will. Wow.
And so what that does, if you tilt horizons to one side, you get a lot more of a sense of falling down into a space. And one of the most important things that I always do with my work is to try to get an actual point which you call the heart. So you'll notice with most of my work that everything is drawn into one point.
So where is the heart on this then? Can you pinpoint the heart for us?
Yep, the heart would be about here.
Right.
And you'll also notice that the perspective of the clouds generally all goes to this one point.
Yeah, so we've almost got that kind of V thing going on there.
That's right.
That's awesome. I'm learning all the time. Let's move on to number 2, and this is the full art mountain. So talk us through this then.
Okay, so again we have a heart, which is round about here. You've got a pathway leading here which will run through.
Right.
And one of the most important thing with all my work is the way the light hits the illustration itself. And you'll notice there's a very warm yellow here. So you've got warm light coming in from the side. And then you've got cool light falling down on top. So the way an illustrator will work is often think in terms of warm light and cool light. If you had too much warm light throughout the piece, it would tend to kill the cool and the warm, if that makes sense.
You're known very much as someone who specialises in the land art. Are you aware when you make a landscape like this of putting people into it? You talk about the path there. That's a path that someone's going to go on. Do you sort of envisage giving them the quest, giving them the path to follow on?
Well, I would actually like to put figures in all my landscapes, but I'm not allowed to. So the task for me is to try to create a storyline. So if we move on to the forest.
Here we go. So here's the green
I
basic.
can answer your question with the forest. You'll notice that there are virtually no people here. But because the forests have little dwellings and where people live, you can imply that something is about to happen. So for me, one of the most important things with my landscapes is to make it look like there is a storyline, that there's a narrative quality about to happen. In other words, you could travel along this road, go and visit this settlement. In fact, there are 2 tiny little people there, which the art directors may not have noticed. But basically, you go up here and go into these buildings. And even though I'm not allowed to put figures in, I quite like the fact that it forces me to have to try to make a storyline for everything. That's
fantastic. You see, there's so much, even at this size, there's so much you miss. I don't think, I wonder how many people have ever seen that before.
Well, I've only just noticed myself.
That's absolutely extraordinary. All right, 2 more to go. Let's take to the swamp. Now, swamps to me seem extraordinarily difficult because fundamentally they're dark and they're bleak, and yet we've got this really light, and it's the same light, to my untrained artistic eye, as you've got from that mountain idea.
Yes, that's right. Well, the light source on this swamp, again, you've got the warm light source here, and then you've got the cold blue coming down on these clumps here. And what was very exciting about this piece is in the style guide, I can't remember who worked on it, but they basically showed this sort of blobby, lumpy mass all going up. And the reason for that is, of course, because these were going to be printed as upright cards, we were trying to think how the hell you make a swamp going in an upwards
which is
direction.
naturally sort of horizontal.
So we've got a grown swamp. And again, the narrative quality comes from the little windows of light, which implies that there's someone sitting in this.
Wow.
And one of the interesting things with my artwork is that because I work in Photoshop, even though this looks hand done, this is actually done on the computer.
Okay.
Very often I'll put in more and more lights, and then you can so easily overcook the chicken, as the saying goes.
Okay, yep.
So I'll often overdo something and then take it out again, and then there's this optimum point where it just feels completely right.
Mm-hmm. And talking of completely right, one of my favourite pieces of art of all time is your Ravnica planes, and now here is the Zendikar full art planes. Tell us about this.
Okay, this was in the style guide. I was asked specifically to do the planes as these shaped, these hexagon shapes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've tilted the horizon line.
Yes, indeed.
For the simple reason that when I first drew it, it actually looked a little bit sort of on the boring side. So often, if I'm tilting things, it's because I can't make it look exciting enough. So that's a little bit of, don't tell anyone I said that.
Bit of a giveaway.
It's just between you and me.
You and me, no
don't
one
tell
will
anyone.
ever know.
So again, actually somebody might have heard that. Anyway.
I doubt it.
So we've got a pathway here.
Yep.
Again, we've got the human element. There actually are 3 figures there, extremely small. But the idea is that you find your way through the painting in here. You go through that building, or that lump of rock, sorry, up here, round the back.
Wow, and still.
All the way up to the top. And when I was a kid, when I used to look at children's book illustrators, I always loved to have little storylines going on inside. And again, if I was looking at that picture, I would imagine myself walking along this path.
So are you a Jack and the Beanstalk fan? Because that's climbing up and up and up the thing, isn't it?
It is. So again, just to confirm that I can't really put figures in, but you try to imagine what it'd be like if one went for a little wander.
Absolutely. And I think one of the great things about John's art, and there's so much out there because he's done hundreds of pieces of art down the years, is that they feel like places you want to visit or to actively avoid. I wouldn't want to go to the swamp, but it's good to know that it's there and I'm living here. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So there you have the Zendikar full art with John Avon, the plains, the swamp, the forest, the mountain and the island. Some of the best basic lands in the history of the game. Mr. John Avon, phenomenal to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.